All right. I think we're
We're
live,
live.
or maybe not live, but recording, whatever we call it. Hi, everyone. My name's Chris Sprague. I work at Veeam Software as a technical partner manager or a channel systems engineer. But we'll get into exactly what systems engineers and titles are here in a second. Want to introduce my co-host, Mr. Zane, over there. If you want to introduce yourself,
Yeah.
and tell us why
Yeah,
we're here.
thanks, Chris. I am Zane Allen. I am a senior, I guess that matters, senior systems engineer with Veeam Software. So, kind of a counterpart to you there, Chris, right? I mean, we do sort of a different focus, but definitely work together day in and day out. Known you, three and a half years, I think now. So, it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
And we're finally doing this. We get together and talk with our other tech friends and ourselves, and never record any of it. So, we thought we'd put this podcast together. And when we thought about what to talk about in a tech podcast, there's lots of things out there. What's interesting. We more and more kind of, at least that's how I remember it, kind of went to this SE journey, this, how did we get here? We didn't all come from the same backgrounds. And as we talk to others in the industry and others we work with, that seems to be the same, right? Everybody kind of comes from a different place and maybe even does sort of a different role, or company to company, the role name is the same, but the duties are different. So Chris and I got together and thought, what a great topic to maybe share with the greater community, right? And talk about the SE journey, right? We're calling it the SE journey, but we mean SEs, systems engineers, sales engineers, sales architects, systems architects, right? The different names, and we'll kind of get into that as we go through these podcasts. But really, where we came from, what were our interests, how we fell into this profession, because honestly, there's no college degree to go out there and nab to get you your system engineering job. So, yeah, just thought we'd do that. We'd share it through our own stories, as well as those we invite on the show in the hopefully subsequent podcasts.
Yeah, that's great, because we kind of, just in talking with all our cohorts and everything, we find everyone had a different way of getting to a sales engineer role or solution architect. Like you said, there's many different names. I spent 18 years on the customer side before I even really knew what it was. So we found it interesting and something to talk about, and maybe kind of help others understand how we got here, so that if it's an interest, like Zane said, you don't go to college and sign up for an SE degree.
No.
So.
And it's a unique role too, right? And again, company to company, it's probably even different, but as we'll explore. But yeah, it's like you, we have pretty similar background, customer side, and then worked with SEs, right? I was in the purchasing and vendor management when I was in the manager role, so just kind of saw this role and explored it more, and you almost fall into it, right? It almost seemed to kind of fall into it. It just makes sense. And then there's those that maybe as we invite people on, we'll find those that maybe they did it for a while and left it, right? Maybe we'll even get that perspective. So really, really very open exploring this topic. And we'll mix tech into that too, right? We'll mix tech into that too, right? We're definitely using tech here to record this. So
so we'll get into Zane and my journeys here in a little bit, and then that kind of is, he mentioned the idea of the show is to bring on guests from other jobs, other companies that can talk about their journeys as well. But before we do that, one thing that Zane always mentions here, we've been having these discussions for well over a year now.
Locked in our offices here. We needed something to do.
Yeah. We've done a lot of content here. It's just all out in the ether, as Zane likes to say. We've never actually recorded it. So now here we finally are. So we, like you said, we'll talk about tech a little bit. Why don't we talk a little bit about just some of the equipment we're using to get this podcast started, Zane?
Yeah. So very new to podcasting technically, right? But we've been doing a lot of, Chris and I have worked on joint ones. I've done ones with others in my organization, some in alliances I work with. Been doing presentations in this virtual space, right? 2020 changed a lot for all of us, I would say, and we were not immune to that. So equipment we're using, and maybe as we get feedback here, we'll learn other great tech to do. But I myself use Audio Technica mic. I like the thing right in front of us here. I like XLR. I have a. Maybe we'll get more into that as I talk about my journey. I do have a recording background in my youth, and still kind of retreated back to that. And so I use, I basically have a to D converter for that I plug into my laptop. I know a lot of others, as we'll see, like the USB mics. I haven't really adopted that. I'm still kind of an analog to digital guy. Using a Focusrite, the Scarlett. It's got the 2 channels, so I can plug in here and I have a little bit of a gain that I can deal with and line in, line out, and then we run that through. And I'll let Chris talk about the platform because he found it what we're trying out here. And then I am using Voicemeter, something I found recently to help kind of adjust your levels and get that sounding correctly. And I don't know, the first run in this podcast, maybe we'll admit it seemed to kind of didn't work well, so that's why this will be our first episode, even though it's probably we had a beta episode, we'll say that. And I'm actually just using a T series laptop for this, but we're not doing anything but recording through this side. But that's kind of the high level of what I'm using from I guess I have my Elgato lights. Big fan of those. Got the Stream Deck here. bought quite a bit of toys so I can control my lighting in the back, lighting on the face, and that one's going to be fun. I think as I play with it more, you can pop screens up and do presets and stuff like that. I haven't dived too much into it, so I'm looking forward to getting into that. I've only had it for a few weeks.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of time to sit at home in our home offices and think about the equipment and the cool things we'd like to buy, right?
And it's easy to buy. You just go, oh, hey, I got 5 minutes. I'll go over there and, yep, purchase.
And that's another thing you're talking about, your Stream Deck and what Elgato can do there. As we get more mature in the in doing this podcast, maybe we'll start having outlines, or we can pop up things, or we'll probably start out very basic here, just some video and Zane and I talking, but we hope to grow that and learn as we go.
Yeah.
So
it's twofold, this podcast, right? Learning how to podcast that journey as well as the SE journey itself. So very exciting.
So I'm similar. On my side, I have an XLR mic as well. I don't know if it's in the screen there. I've got it's actually a Marshall MXL mic
nice.
that I've had for a while. So I actually have that digital converter box. Mine's an older M box, and if anybody's familiar with that, you'll realize, it is very old. I actually think I bought it about probably 15 years ago. So I had to find some special drivers on the internet to make it work in Windows 10.
That's always fun.
But it seems to be working. So I haven't really, I haven't forayed into the USB mics yet. I know they're getting much better, and they're up to the quality now. But I kind of like having this,
Yep.
having the physical gain and all that. So I've got a couple of lights as well, and just using my desktop. The more that I want to talk about is the platform. We're using Riverside FM. Or Riverside.fm. There's a lot of different platforms out there that can record. This one looked pretty simple to us. And really I think the biggest challenge in getting the podcast going or finding a platform was being able to do it remotely, right?
Yeah.
We're not sitting in the same room. We wanted to be able to record. What seems very nice about Riverside.fm is it's actually recording everything locally, and then it uploads after the fact, so you get really good quality audio and video. So
it's been pretty great.
Well, yet to see. We'll see as we record some of these and get them out there.
How it works.
So,
the tests seem to go good. So yeah, and I think also ease of use is important because not only we're not even in the same state, right? I should mention that I'm sitting in Washington. You're out in Idaho.
Yep.
We have day jobs, and so fitting these in, you don't want to have to spend a lot of time because you'd probably end up not. We talk about this even in our products, right? Ease of use, easy to set up, easy to execute means you'll actually do it. It'll actually work. So I think that's why we also gravitated to this platform. But
yeah, exactly. I guess one thing I didn't mention is my camera. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing special. I'm just using a Logitech C922 Pro. You know, it's one thing I would actually like to upgrade, get a real camera. But I've heard that it looks pretty good on the other end. So it's amazing what some of these little webcams can do nowadays. So.
Yeah, I didn't mention mine. I got the Razer Kaio. I was able to find those early in the pandemic, which was not easy. So liking that one. I actually have two in the house now because I'm not the only one that has this stream.
Oh, yeah, you got another one,
Yeah.
another camera because you liked it so much.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's nice. And the Kaio has the little ring light built
Yeah.
right into the camera as well, right?
yeah, so you can adjust ring light, get a little more shine there. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that's nice. I've got two little cheap ring lights myself, just to light up the scene, as all my windows, as you can tell, are behind me. So, nice. Well, cool. Zane, if anything else left on equipment or the platform here, if not,
No, I
go
think
ahead
we're
and
good.
just kind of talk about how you got where you're at today.
Yeah, well, high level, and we hope over this whole journey, you know, we'll probably dive into it more as we have others on the show, and we already have some people lined up to come on to the next ones. Myself, as I mentioned, just like Chris, I was a customer. I was actually a Veeam customer prior to coming to Veeam, but I was in IT for 12 years, so definitely did the gamut. More of a generalist, networking, but I've done back end, front end for systems. I've done networking, servers, storage. I realized, and I didn't really realize it until I was here, every job I had, I was the backup guy, so it kind of makes sense. You know, kind of wondered how I fell into this. I become a backup guy, right? Because I used to go from not having to think about backup all day to thinking about it all day. But I always was, right? I was a new guy in IT. Hey, here's the tapes. And I remember going direct to tapes. I remember not having virtualization, so, you know, been around a while. To, you know, moving into disk-based backup. I know. I remember DLT. But so yeah, I went from that to, and I started in the newspaper industry, which was great for learning how to be, I'm not trying to say resilient, but you know, resourceful, I guess would be the word, right? It was kind of at the height, at the end, and that's when I realized I needed to become generic in IT, right? Just learn IT and kind of get away from, because I did a lot of workflow specific to newspapers. And that's when I gained into a managed service provider. So I did that for a while, where I really got to see a gamut of backups. So just kind of piecing how I got here, as well as that's where virtualization really started for me. A little bit at the newspaper, but a lot there. You know, I saw a lot of different networks. Had to come up with management so that we could effectively, because in the MSP world, it's charge for an hour, work 15 minutes, right? That's the game. So, you know, how do we efficiently manage all these customers and keep them up and running? And largely, a lot of them didn't even have IT departments, so really in that kind of space. And then, moved into consulting roles, and then got up there to the glory of IT management, kind of management director side for a nonprofit, where I basically converted their network, converted their systems to a new platform, helped them secure their network, right? In there, I also got to teach. And I think this is where it really all started to come together for me, is I got to do adjunct professor at a school in California where we had an information assurance department. So it was really all about focusing on security and networking. And I got to introduce backups into that, because at that point I was a Veeam customer, where I introduced them, hey, backup is definitely part of a security strategy. It's when it happens, what are we going to do about it? And I liked that aspect. It kept me learning new technology, kept me figuring out a way to communicate it to people that are new to technology, maybe, or are junior to it. A little bit of mentoring, if you will, which I always sought out when I was trying to build a career. And I think that's what really all came together for me, right? The IT side, I liked the teaching, I liked that. And then I found this SE role, and I kind of had the back of my mind for a while, because I was like, I talked to these SEs. What are they? Who are they? Where do they come from? Where are these? You start looking at jobs, like, okay, this is what you need to get there. And it was a VeeamON conference as a customer that I led to actually applying for a role and getting it in 2016 when I started. So it's kind of a high level, but yeah, definitely from an IT. And I think as we'll explore this, it really takes that I want to talk to customers. I really want to also love tech. but I don't want to be 100%. You know, I want to talk to end user. I want to evangelize. I want to learn new things. But yeah, I also don't want to be behind the keyboard all day. So it's kind of this mix of things and personalities, I think, that lead you here. But yeah, that's
so. What was your platform for teaching? You mentioned got to teach a little bit,
like technology wise. Well, I did in person, and then I hybrid. So we use Blackboard, is what we called it, the system that was there. I would, in fact, that's where I started recording demos and videos. Funny enough, I'd be like, "Oh, let me walk you through how to do this configuration in a promoter net domain controller or secure this," and I realized if I did some lessons there, now they had this reference to go back to, and then they could do it in the lab. It was actually that transition. My first class, I was doing more lecture, and then I realized if I taught through experience, like, hey, here's a lab, here's some switches, let's get your hands on it, because that's how you learn in IT. Is the frustration equals learning, I like to say, right? That's not my phrase, but I picked that up somewhere. The struggle, that's how you learn. You love it, you want to problem solve, and you learn, right? And then it's also where you learn if you don't love it. And
very quickly,
because that's how I think a lot of us came up. But you know, we'll talk about that. So yeah, we use Blackboard. I did in person, and then hybrid, and then we were developing an online class, which I'm sure they've done by now. But that's when I joined Veeam and left the state. So I chose to go this way.
Yeah. Nice.
How about you? I know we're just talking about high level here, but
yeah, no. It's interesting that you mentioned the teaching piece. I was always told as I going through school, work, actually a lot of the time, that I should be a teacher. I think a lot of people saw I kind of have a propensity for that too, wanting to take knowledge and share it. And I think a lot of people saw that through my life. I never really wanted to be a teacher in the strict sense, right? So I didn't think of that. But now as I think back to it, I'll kind of incorporate it here, but into my journey. So yeah, kind of starting at the beginning. I did start in the technology side. I've been a geek most of my life. So I did, I've always been into computers. I went to school actually down in San Diego.
That's right.
Miss that beautiful place. Went to school down there, and I was a computer science major. So I started in the programming developer side. I actually worked for a .com right around the turn of the century, and
it wasn't so great
and
for .coms.
First go round. It was great for a couple of years, and then fell off the face of the earth. So, but yeah, I worked for a .com. I was doing some development. I actually worked for Sony Online Entertainment down in it was in Miramar at the time, and got to support video games like EverQuest and Final Fantasy. And actually at the time, it was almost a dream come true, right?
It was like a dream job, right? Yeah, at that age.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a programmer. I want to program video games. I work for a game company as I was doing QA and tech support at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna get my degree, move over there. But as I was working for that and the .com, I started to become the de facto tech support guy because I could fix wireless issues and Outlook issues and Mac issues that nobody else could. And I quickly learned,
or wanted to,
that exactly. So I quickly learned that if I was going to continue to develop, unless I was to start my own company, and it wouldn't always be like this, but I'm going to be just, writing code for something else. And I found out while I like scripting and coding, I more liked being hands-on and touching hardware and fixing people's problems. And so then I moved into more of the technical management or IT management type roles, into more tech support. And so I started getting into, I've done everything from IT service management to, I was a network engineer, integration engineer, kind of did some DevOps in there. So lots of different backgrounds and things that I did. And as I was doing that, I realized as geeky or nerdy as I am, and I love to talk tech, I love to have the business conversations around it as well, right? For lack of a better term, I guess. Talk about the what and the why and help people with it. kind of to your point, going back to that teacher mentality or trusted advisor or consultant.
Yeah.
Right. And I realized that I really wanted to do stuff like that. And that's when I started looking for roles within my companies for that. That started helping me move up the chain. And I ended up becoming an enterprise architect for an organization, and realized that I really enjoyed talking to the different business units, talking tech with the techies and taking that to the business units to bring business value. And, really enjoying those conversations. So I think much like you, Zane, at that time is when I started realizing, like, hey, who are these SEs that I'm working with, right? They come in and pitch their product and tell me about it. And to your point, you don't learn this in college. I didn't have a family member that had already been in this industry to tell me about it. So, 18 years into my IT career, it's like, oh, that looks fun. Like, that's a lot what I'm doing now, but I could do it with multiple businesses and across the board with customers and partners. And so that's actually when I moved into what we call a value-added reseller, or a VAR, or we call it a partner. So today at Veeam, I'm a technical partner manager, or an SE for the partners. And that's where I used to work, was at a partner. So I went over there they actually called it a consulting engineer. So there's another name, like Zane mentioned, whether it's sales engineer, solution engineer, consulting engineer. Sometimes they're even just solution architects, many names. But I went over to a reseller, did a lot of different products. Of course, Veeam was one of those, and then had the opportunity to now be over at Veeam, where I came over as a field systems engineer. So at Veeam, they call them systems engineers. So there's another term. Same as sales engineer. We're really all pre-sales. That's the idea here. And trying to be trusted advisors and help our customers find the best solution that meets their needs. So I came over as the field SE. Basically what Zane's doing now is he's the senior SE though. And then I got moved into the channel, which means working with our partners. So I no longer, like Zane said, we're counterparts. We're both SEs. I focus on our partners and helping them understand the Veeam solution and making sure they can provide the best solution to our customers. And Zane works directly with the customers.
Yep.
I think there's about how that goes, right?
But there's overlap, right? Like I like to always say, we're all channel SEs.
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't sell direct. So Chris and I will partner up on presentations that are strictly to partners, right? Those are our partners are valuable, right? They also put the message out there, and we want to educate them. So customers kind of not a loose term, but it does encompass multiple tiers. But I would be more focused on an actual customer engagement where the customer is trying to figure out a solution directly for their network or for their organization. Whereas you would
that's a great point.
Yeah, more. So there's definitely overlap. That's another nuance, right? In some orgs, I bet it could be pretty siloed, but here we choose to do it as a, what do we call them? We call them pods, but like as a group. Like Chris has got a responsibility for a certain region. I have a certain region. I overlap into his. He helps me, just for an overall plan, like how we're going to put this message out, who we're going to talk to, whom we're going to talk to, who needs help, who's our champions, whatever, those types of things. So there's, I like how you said the business value. I recognize that early in IT as well. You can be just technology, but if you can also figure out the business side, what are we doing here in this org? How does IT help the org? Because mostly it's a cost center for most organizations. Right. And then we've taken that to here, right? Hey, have that business conversation with the partner who talks to their customers. So they could be a trusted advisor, kind of guide them there, talk to my customers and give them here's the tech. And I know it's easy. Plus here's how you talk to the business, how it meets those needs. So definitely spins that gamut. That's an important part of this role. Or both our roles.
Yeah, you bring up two really good points there. One, we don't work in silos, right? I work with partners and your customer. We help each other across the board, right? It wouldn't make sense. Obviously, especially at the company we're at, Veeam, we're 100% channel, is what they like to say. Means we don't sell direct. You go always through a channel partner. So you'd be remiss not to work with those teams, right?
Yeah.
Because that's who you're going to go help the customer with.
It's almost a franchise, right? It's almost like, hey, the Northwest, at least mine is, yours might be bigger, but the Northwest Veeam franchise, I'm part of that, and you're part of that as well. So it's a brand.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. You're up in, the Seattle area. I'm down in the Boise area, and we, especially in the last year, we haven't been traveling much, right? So we're going to support each other the best we can.
Plus, it's
whether
fun.
It's partner, customer, whatever it may be, alliances, any of that stuff.
Plus, I have a lot of great conversations with your partners, and sometimes some of the best, because they're coming with, "Hey, I heard these 6 things today or this week, and what do you think about it, Zane? What do you think about it, Chris?" And we're like,
"Yep,
I've never thought about that. That's great. Let's dig into this. Let's look at it. Let's lab it." Yeah, so I actually have a lot of fun. So that's another part of it, is enjoying that aspect of the job. Helps.
Yeah, and that actually leads right into the other point you brought up that I wanted to mention, is in what aspects you may enjoy about the job, right? So you brought up that business aspect, or we both have. So that's something to think about, right? If you find yourself very much into technology, but you also like to message or evangelize that technology or help people, this may be a very good industry or role for you to look into, right? If you find yourself, whatever your internal chat is with your teams, whether it's Teams or Slack or any of those, if you're finding yourself as the person always wanting to answer questions and helping out, I'm similar to that. It's very hard for me to ignore questions. That may be something you're like, oh, I like helping, right? So this is a good thing to look at this role. And then, to the other side, if you're extremely, like head down and like to be in technology and not super public, maybe pre-sales isn't necessarily the position for you. You do want to talk to people and like people. Yeah. But there's other roles, some of the solution architect roles are very much, or even on the product management side. We can get into all that later, but there's other roles that even fall into that, more suited for that.
Yeah. So. That's just true. And that's what this podcast, it's pretty endless is what we saw. We're like, man, we could probably talk about this forever as long as people want to listen. Yeah. And we've met enough people, so we hope to, I know this is kind of high level podcast, but as we dive into it, we can get real focused as we invite others on the show and talk about their journeys and, whom they've talked to and who they interface with. And some of them are seasoned, right? They've done several roles in this game. Or I've started here and I went here. Now I'm here. So, they're even more information than us who have essentially just, we've progressed, but we've been in this similar role kind of out of our, you did the VAR first and I did consultant, I guess, but similar role outside of our customer days, right? So.
Yeah. And I've never done the managed service provider side. So in a future episode, we'll have to get a little more into that.
Yes.
How your MSP, what that felt like. So
bring somebody over for that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so that we don't get too off track, because like you said, we could talk about this forever and continue to go off in different directions, and we will, is why we started this. But yeah, to kind of keep on track here. So you mentioned earlier, Veeam On as being a place you went and then applied to Veeam. So it just so happens Veeam On is happening right now.
Kind of in the wake of it, yeah.
Or just kind of actually finished, right? I think it just concluded over 2 days.
Yep.
So, and that's something else we want to talk about as conferences. Not necessarily, this isn't a show about Veeam, just happens to be where we work, so we're talking a lot about it, but that's not going to be the focus. But yeah, anything to say about Veeam On, or since we just went through it, or other conferences that are going on virtually? So.
Yeah. So we had, I know we had Pure Accelerate still going, I think, as well, and that's been a couple weeks. We just had a couple days for Veeam. I actually got to do a short session at ours and with the partner, and I did an Accelerate session as well. But a lot around, I think ours definitely that hybrid cloud story, that data management story. So we put our announcements of what's coming out this year, alluded to what's coming out next year. So that's why conferences are great, and I think they've sort of promised to have showing you betas by the end of the year of what that looks like. That'd be our version 12 for Veeam. And but all this cloud data story, and as we've seen customers kind of be in this hybrid world, so which is very interesting. I obviously big cloud proponent, dived well into that, including Kubernetes in the last year or 2 years. So
Yeah.
So a lot around that, and then of course just data protection in general. I think V made an announcement. I think we're number 2 backup company now. I know number 2 is a funny thing to like tout, but up against all the others, that's a big achievement. So
Worldwide, right?
Worldwide, yeah, the worldwide number 2, not just EMEA where we were 1, but some announcements around that. They had shoe giveaway. Everybody wanted those Air Force Ones. That was all the rage. The Veeam Air Force Ones.
We
Conferences
all wanted those, right?
Yeah, we did.
They
Apparently we can
promoted
buy
those
them.
a lot.
But conference in general been fun. I've gotten to go to several in my career at Veeam as a Veeam. So I did it as a customer and then as a Veeam SE, including our own as a Veeam SE, and I've done for many partners, Pure, Cisco, IBM, VMworld, right? That's the big coveted one too, right? Where all the vendors get together, and it's a great place to, as we talk about learn tech, and is to go see other tech out there and see other trends and what the little companies that are popping up and where they're focusing. And AWS, I'm sorry, that's a big one too. Very different than the other conferences where you're seeing what's happening in the cloud and seems like billions of companies that are just supporting different parts of that cloud journey. From managing it to getting there to getting out of there, right? Whatever it is. So great journey, and they're all virtual right now, so it's easy to go to them.
So you mentioned a couple there that I'll bring up as well. But we've been going to these virtual conferences or smaller conferences, big conferences, for 14 or 15 months now. And man, there's a lot to be desired in these virtual conferences, for me personally. And I haven't seen them really progress much in the last year. It's kind of the same thing. What I will say about VeeamON is I really actually enjoyed the interface, the virtual interface. I thought they did a very good job of that. The content was very, very good. So I actually enjoyed it. Still long to go in person. The only thing I would say,
it's night and day, right?
Yeah. The only thing I would say about VeeamON is it was 2 days of great packed content. But you already mentioned Pure Accelerate and then AWS reInvent, I think is AWS. And those go on for weeks, right? I think both of those go on for something like 5 weeks with different content each week. And I don't know that you necessarily need that much content, but it's nice to be able, VeeamON's 2 days. And if you can't make it these 2 days, nice to know that, hey, it's still going next week. Now, all those sessions are going to be recorded, so you can go see them anytime. But I do like the idea of like, oh, last week I was busy, I couldn't go to reInvent or Accelerate. So this week I am, and I can still, win some swag or find out what I want or whatever. So those are interesting as well. Not like you're going to spend 5 weeks at a conference, right? But
2 approaches they've done. Yeah, you're right. Like maybe one lends itself better sometimes. Yeah, ours will be rebrought. Like, hey, go watch the recording. So it's almost like it's still going on. Whereas, they've spaced those other ones out 3-4 weeks or whatever it was. I think they have themes each week too, right? Accelerate is like data protection week, and the first one was core product week, and so it's interesting to see the different approaches. And then we've done some regional stuff, right, where it's a day event and it's recorded sessions, and then we just have a question and answer booth. Those seem to be a little less attended sometimes, but we used to use that as a way to go see customers in person all in one place, or see partners as well and my alliance partners, and kind of see everybody in one day. And it's hard to do that in the virtual space. We've tried real hard to kind of keep these kind of channels open with people outside of our org, but everybody's busy. Everybody's probably strapped to a desk. I seem to be more busy because I'm not moving around anymore. So it's hard. And conferences were a good way to reconnect and kind of focus on a thing for a couple of days.
Yeah, you're right. It is a little different. We use our we run our own user groups, right, with end users, so that we can get in front of people and let them ask questions, right? Let Veeam users come ask questions, and then we help those with them in person. But now as we do user groups virtually, we kind of have to have content prepared, and it's more of almost a webinar format, right? So, another thing to talk about is at an SE role. So if conferences, another thing, if you enjoy conferences, another reason to look at this type of role. Some people don't like traveling and going to those things. Some of us love it. Just another thought. So I know we're coming up on some time here, Zane. I know in the future we'll probably even geek out more in our Homelabs and tech, hobbies. You can see, some of my hobbies back here. I got football helmets, guitars. He's got mountain bike stuff going on there.
Yes. I chose in my later life here to get back into mountain biking and very rooty and rocky Washington. So, but it's been fun. So you got to get away from the desk once in a while, right? But I look forward to diving into the crazy labs we built and how we do things there, and then of course as we bring people on, how what they're doing, and then hobbies as well. There's more to this job. Again, it's humans, it's networking, it's hobbies as well as tech, and it's the passion for tech, the passion for what you do in your off time, and then that balance. So we'll try to convey that as well as we move forward here.
Yeah, and we'll continue to talk about, like we said, other guests. We'll have them on, talk about the journey to get here, and other random topics as you've seen us kind of sidetrack here, and we'll have more of those. So, but thank you all for joining, and especially if you stayed this long. And I would just say, if you have any ideas for us, like we're just getting this rolling, anything you want to know about getting to an SE, any specific questions, anything about our, the podcast in general, or anything you'd like to know that fits the bill here, we're happy and welcome for ideas, even titles and names for the show, or anything that you have ideas about, right?
Please. Let's make this a very useful conversation, right? That's what this is supposed to be. It's not just two SEs talking. So thank you as well. Thank you for sticking around, and hope to talk with you soon.
Yep, perfect. All right, thanks everyone for joining.
All right,
thank you, Zane.
Thank you, Chris.
Have a good one.
Bye.